saying that the very question as to how can it possibly be that it's so long since the Frierdiker Rebbe said what he said, and yet Mashiach hasn't come, that question is coming from the fact that the person is completely versunken geworden in Golus. They're sunk in Golus. V'yirotze, Yud Dalet. It's the very end of the Sicha. Shayadei ribu diburim edis bias Mashiach tzidkeinu b'feil lamish. That through the many speakings, an increase in the speaking about Mashiach, in actuality, not just by making a chazaka, but talking about it three times, rather even 100 times, then it becomes something regular, something common, something that's part of the person's natural behavior. That which a person does regularly becomes second nature. Until it ultimately becomes his nature. This is a very interesting. Chazal talked about teva sheni, so most people don't talk about it, don't notice these sort of things. But it's brought in Chassidus. What's the difference between teva and teva sheni? Second nature. What's the difference between your nature and a second nature? Really, what you want is your second nature to become your nature. Because nature means that's you. That's mamish what you naturally do. Second nature becomes something that you've imposed upon yourself. So it's somewhat natural, but you really want it to be mamish your nature. It's not your second nature. It's your nature. Ad latevastam, the Yeseda Mizu, furthermore, Mea Pamim, the Echad, 101 times, like it says in Tanya, right? Ayachas, the Oidyes Mizu, right? Yinad Nadu Kol Kach. That means like to nudge, right? To, nudge and annoy people, so to speak. But not really annoy, a nudge, right? Kol kach, lamato, be'ikr lamaila, below, and the ikr is above it. It should make an impression on the Kadosh Baruch Hu. Ad shaleiter breira kaviyach, that there won't be a choice, so to speak. Elul havi segula b'feil mamish, except to bring Mashiach. Ubefrachi yesemi masha egel retzelinak, and especially since more than the calf wants to nurse, a para retzelahanik, the mother wants to nurse. The mother wants to give the milk more than the child wants to take the milk. Kadosh Baruch Hu chafetz binyan the geula educator. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants the geula. Shechein b'kol makom shegalus shechina imayim. Anywhere where they went to galus, so shechina imayim, the shechina is with them. Kadosh Baruch Hu is in galus, so to speak. Kasher tavei geula, and when the geula comes, azai v'shav avaylokecha shvuscha. Now the pasuk, simple pshat in the pasuk means the Kadosh Baruch Hu will return your captives, but if you that should be v'heishiv Hashem Elokecha. He will return, meaning causative. V'shav is a simple verb, meaning he will return. In other words, a Kadosh Baruch Hu will return, and the word et is not just normal et, but et can also mean with. So Kadosh Baruch Hu will return with your captives. V'shav daika. Hainu shazui gam agula shel Kadosh Baruch Hu. This is the gula also of the Eibishter. V'ikr ka'amor she is gashem acholim. The ikar is that this dream should be realized. The cholim shali, my dream. I was making fun of these people. Shalamite shel davar gam cholim shalachem. That in truth it's also your dream. Right? This bias Mashiach is going to be failed. Mamish teka from miyad, coming of Mashiach immediately. Ubiyem Shabbos lifnei tfilas mincha, and Shabbos before mincha. Va'ad, to such an extent, we'll get to cholim kol cholemis shebiyem Shabbos atzmei ba'im imananei shemaya. That on Shabbos itself will come on clouds of Shemayim, l'artzenu hakadosh, to our holy land, Eretz asher tamid ein yavai l'kecho abba mireshus hashana v'ad achri shana, the eyes of the Eibusher on this land from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. And we spailim tefillas mincha the Shabbos zu, and we should daven mincha of this Shabbos b'Yerushalayim Yerkedesh Beis Hamikdash Shlishi in Yerushalayim, in the Beis Hamikdash, nishamas begufim, as souls and bodies, lamatim yisar tfachim, down here in the world in actuality, but pale mamish in actuality. Meaning I'm not kidding. Okay, now let's see, the Rebbe talks about the Immerse. It's very, very famous Sicha. I was actually there. I couldn't hear, right? Where I stood, I couldn't hear the Rebbe, but I was in the room.
It was on Shabbos.
Yeah. Always. So the way the Kinos work, the official, in the Rebbe will say it, the official opening of the Kinos was the Rebbe for bringing on Shabbos. That's why in the old days, so there would be sessions on Thursday, Friday, and then Shabbos would come. The Rebbe would officially, and you can see the Rebbe's opening. The Rebbe would officially open the kinos, and from then on, it was very, very much very common for people to wear their surtuk the rest of the kinos, because basically the Rebbe was there. The Rebbe was part of the kinos already. The Rebbe had opened the kinos and now was participating in the kinos. So people would wear their surtuk for the rest of the kinos. That'd be Sunday, Monday. And now the focus one of the main focuses of the kinos is the so-called lay leaders. Right, that everybody brings their balabatim to the kinos, which is perfectly reasonable. In those days, no one did that, because you could bring your balabatim to the Rebbe for dollars. That's when people brought their balabatim. Now, the most impressive thing you can take them to in terms of Chabad, which is the kinos. Everybody brings their lay leaders to the kinos. So in the old days, so the banquet was just shluchim. There was no one else. It might have been the odd guest, but there was no one else at the banquet. It was shluchim. Now the banquet is basically for the balabatim. And I understand that. It's not complaining. I'm just saying that's the reality. Okay. So you see, Sichas Shabbos Parshas Chaye, Sara, Chaf Hey Mar Cheshvan, Mavar Chedesh Kislev, Tavshin Then Beis. That's generally when the kinos was. Not generally, but it's Mavarchin Chedesh Kislev. Shabbos Mavarchin Chedesh Kislev. Sichas, the opening. When the shluchim had been around for a couple of days. There had been sessions. But the official opening of the kinos is the Rebbe's for bringing Shabbos afternoon. Sichas kinos shluchim ha'elomi. Bamdeina, we'll go through it relatively quickly. It's not like there's deep Chassidish ideas, but there's amazing ideas about what shlichus is, and if we understand what shlichus is, and we understand what our Aveda is, because our Aveda is shlichus. Doesn't mean you go out and shlichus with a capital shin. It means you're a shaliach of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Elam Hazeh, and you have to understand. So, okay, well, what does that entail? What does that mean? In our standing in the beginning and the opening of the international Kinos HaShulchin, I think the first Kinos was for Americans in Mem Zayin, then Mem Ches, I believe these are the dates. I might be off a year. Mem Ches, so then it became Elomi. The Rebbe said it should be international. And from Mem Ches on, it was international. Hashluchim sheyichu, now you'll notice who the Rebbe says they're shluchim of. Hashluchim sheyichu, the shluchim, they should be well, they should live. Shal kfei kedish meicham yad menasi, the reign of the Friedrich Rebbe. V'chol merchav esegel, all corners of the earth, ba'arba kanfes arts, both of them, we'd say in English, both, all over the world in the four corners of the world. Tzarech lahaskim, I have to mention, Bereisha B'Rishena, first and foremost, as a yesod, the foundation, and to explain the purpose of shluchim in this generation in general, and particularly hachidish, the novel idea that has been added, especially bezmana achron, in the recent times, b'avedus shlichus. In shlichus, and what's that? Meaning, what is shlichus about now? Lekabel es b'nei Mashiach tzidkenu b'gula mitis v'shlema, to accept, receive the countenance of Mashiach with true and complete redemption. K'medubar kama pam. This has been explained a number of times. Neisef ala nekuda mishutefes b'chlalos avedus shlichus shel b'nei Yisrael b'chalal. In addition to the common point in the general idea of shlichus of all the Jewish people, k'shluchav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or shluchim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shehi, and that basic shlichus is ani nivresi. I was created l'shamash eskreni, to serve my master. Ubefrat, right? That's in general. That's every yid. Ubefrat, and particularly shluchim shel nasi, the reign of the shluchim of the Rebbe. Asher nekudas shlichus hazois. This point of shlichus, mishu tefes, is common, shav, and equal, b'chol zmanim, in all times. Right, that idea of l'shamash eskreni, any universal l'shamash eskreni, mizvases, mizman, sometimes it's added, Chiddush b'shlichus, something unique and new in shlichus. Shlichus miyuchedes, a special shlichus. Shehi chayderes es kol inyanei shlichus. This penetrates into all aspects of shlichus. V'hi nases hashar, and this becomes the gate. Shal yadei oilim kol inyanei shlichus, that through it go all other aspects of shlichus. Something special. What's that something special going to be? The union of Kabbalah's B'nai B'Shir Tzidkenu, which the Rebbe just mentioned. Allah has come and become all the more so, b'nidein didan, in our matter, shezeu chiddush kloli v'ikari, that this new novel aspect of shlichus is something so general and so essential. She'eino rak prat, it's not a detail or klal or even a general idea b'shlichus. Elu ikar v'inyan kloli b'yeser, it's the most essential and general idea imaginable. V'achu de'inyan ha'chi kloli b'teder, it's the most important and general aspect of the whole Torah. Hachana l'biyas Mashiach, preparing for Mashiach. Shemakif is called nekudas hapratim shel avedus hashlichus, that this encompasses within it all of the individual points of shlichus, meaning the whole world was ultimately created in order to make a dir b'tachteinim. So that's the aved of this generation more than any other. Ukfi, just like Shkvardua Pamim Rabbis has been said a number of times. Ubefrat, particularly B'Chadoshim and B'Shvuas Achronim in the recent months and weeks. Shal Pi Heidas Chazal, based on the statement of Chazal in the Gemara in Sanhedrin. Shekvar Kalu Kol HaKitzim, that all ends have been done, meaning everything necessary has been done. And the announcement, which we saw the Rabbi talk about in the Sichas we just finished, from Mem Dalet. That we finished all aspects of Aveda, even to polish the buttons. One of the things the Frierdiker Rebbe said was that all of this led the Mashiach has his special coat on and everything's ready. All we have to do is polish the buttons, and we're ready for. The Rebbe at one point talked about the fact that we polished the buttons so much there's not going to be any buttons left. And we're standing ready to accept Mashiach. Why is this so unclear? I mean, I copied it from a normal book, right? That the avoid of Shlichus Achshav, he is Liyas Muchanim b'fail, to be ready in actuality, l'Kabbalah's B'nai Mashiach Tzidkenu b'fail mamish, to accept Mashiach in actuality. Mizem muvan shel matara, the purpose shel kinos hashluchim ha'ilami and neichochi, the purpose of the present kinos conference. Mizbates b'nekudas is expressed in this point. Lisdaber biyachad, to speak together, l'kabel cholatus tevis, and to make positive resolutions, al manas l'kaiman b'foil, in order to fulfill them in actuality. Keitzad levatzei shlichus michedesh shel hazman shalanu, how to express the special shlichus of our time, Kabbalah's B'nai Mashiach Tzidkenu, accepting Mashiach. Hashaycha shel avedus hashlichus shel hashluchim shenesasu v'kinos shluchim le'ilami, the relevance of avedus hashlichus, of the shluchim who are here, in Mashiach Tzidkenu, with the notion of Mashiach, Tuvan Basbaras Sheichusa Shel Mashiach Atzmei, will be understood by Hasbaras, by explaining Sheichusa Shel Mashiach Atzmei, the relevance of Mashiach himself, Iminyan V'Geder Shlichus Kanal, B'Chlal, so with the whole notion of Shlichus. Meaning, we'll see there's a connection between Mashiach and Shlichus, specifically. Not that there's just a shlichus to bring Mashiach, just like there's a shlichus to put on tefillin on people. There's a shlichus to get people to give tzedakah, and there's a shlichus to get people to learn Torah, and there's a shlichus to get women to light Shabbos candles, etc. Okay, there's also a connection between shlichus and Mashiach himself. Al pasuk, the Rebbe is about to explain a story in Chumash that everybody's learned in quite an astounding way. Allah pasuk shlachna biyad tishlach. Moshe Rabbeinu is standing on Har Sinai at the snag, and the Kadosh Baruch Hu is, so to speak, trying to convince him to go to Mitzrayim and take the Yidden out of Mitzrayim. And Moshe Rabbeinu was not particularly interested in this, right? And it took a week, right? The whole conversation took a week. And the Kadosh Baruch was trying to convince Moshe Rabbeinu until ultimately, at a certain point, the Kadosh Baruch gets angry at Moshe Rabbeinu, right? According to a simple pshat in the Chumash, there's a machlekes tanoim that Rashi brings whether or not that anger had a reshim. It didn't have a reshim, but the Eibush is trying to convince Moshe to do this, and Moshe seems rather reluctant. In the context of that conversation, Moshe says, "Shlach na biyad tishlach." Send the one you're going to send. Now, the basic understanding of that is, I know that I'm not going to take Am Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael, and I'm not the Mashiach. So why don't you just send Mashiach now? I mean, why send me? Send the one who's ultimately going to be sent. Shlach na biyad tishlach, the one you will send. Okay. That's the basic pshat in that statement of Moshe. Ala pasuk shlach na biyad tishlach. Sha'amar Moshe l'Kadosh Baruch Hu, Kadosh Baruch Hu shal Chaye, when the Kadosh Baruch Hu sent him, l'hoitzias b'nei Yisrael mitzrayim, to take Am Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. Erim Chazal, Amar Moshe l'fanav. And the Medrash called this lekach tev. It's also Pirkei of Rabbi Eliezer. Similar idea. Rabbeinu Shalom, master of the world, shlach na biyad tishlach, biyad Mashiach, shu asid legales. Why are you sending me? I'm just an intermediary. Val piza yesh lemesh, but Mashiach yesh geder shel shaliach. Based on this, we see that the shaliach has a geder of shlichus, of being a shaliach. Shalach na biyad tishlach. Who is he? He's a shaliach, one you've sent. Al pi Torah. Mashiach hu ha-shaliach. Shalach tishlach. Shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu l'Gal Yisrael is the shaliach of the Eibush to redeem the Jewish people. Hatam b'pashtus lama bikesh zeis Moshe. Who? The simple reason why Moshe asked this, Kepedish Rashi al pasuk, is like Rashi says in the pasuk. B'yad acher, in the hand of another shatir tzeli that you're going to want to send. Why? Because Moshe knows already. She'ein seifi la'achnisim la'aretz. That it's not my end to bring them into Eretz Yisrael. Li'os goyelam lasid, and to be their redeemer in the future. Yesh l'cha shluchim harbe. You have a lot of shluchim. So why do I have to get involved when I'm not finishing the job? Send someone who's going to finish the job. And this is mashma from what Moshe is saying. You have a lot of shluchim, and I'm not going to finish the job, so send someone else who will finish the job. That since, even without this, since Kadosh Baruch Hu at this point doesn't have the plan that Moshe is going to bring them into Eretz Yisrael and to be the future Redeemer, Mashiach, let him send another Shaliach, and the Rebbe is understanding that Medrash in the same vein as the previous Medrash, Mashiach, because that is what he says, right? I'm not going to be the Goyal Asid. Sheyishlach es Mashiach, should send Mashiach, liyos Gelam shel Yisrael gam mitzrayim. Just get started and finish the job. Why should I do it and then someone else is going to take over? Okay, that's simple pshat in the story, but the Rebbe never accepts simple pshat in any story, right? And anybody who learns seriously doesn't accept a simple pshat in any story. And so the Rebbe is going to start asking very interesting questions, especially about the idea of Moshe asking questions. Obviously, Moshe Rabbeinu understood. Ubefrat, particularly, Moshe is the highest expression of Chochmah. Moshe kibel Torah Sinai. Moshe is the one who can accept the Torah Sinai. Shekadosh Baruch Hu atzma yoda shu asid lishleich es Mashiach. Moshe doesn't know. I mean, the whole argument of Moshe is that someone else is going to do this. So obviously the Eibishter knows that, and the Eibishter is still asking Moshe to do it now. So then what exactly is Moshe's problem? The Eibishter doesn't. Oh, the Eibishter goes, oh yeah, Taka, I didn't think about that. You're right. You're not. Why? What is he thinking? What's Moshe thinking? V'lo yas Moshe. Legal is Yisrael Lasi. The Eibishter is going to send Mashiach and not Moshe. Ubechol is nevertheless Bachar b'Moshe k'shaliach legal Yisrael Mitzrayim, and nevertheless, HaKadosh Baruch Hu called on Moshe to redeem the Jewish people from Mitzrayim. Then why is Moshe fetching? Why is Moshe saying, send someone else? The Eibishter knows what he's doing. The Eibishter knows that Moshe is shaykh to this and Shaliach is shaykh to that. What's his question? On the other hand, since Moshe is Chochmah de Kedusha, which means Chochmah de Tzilus, Moshe asked this and advised this. Therefore, what? Movements. It's understood. If Moshe Rabbeinu thinks that this is a reasonable idea, then Al Pi Chochmah de Kedusha, this is a reasonable idea. So then the idea, then of course you can ask, so then why isn't this happening? I mean, if Moshe Rabbeinu thinks that this is what should be going on, so Moshe is saying that from a state of unbelievable holiness, right? So, if so, then why didn't the Kadosh Baruch Hu accept his bakash? Mitzad Moshe, we're asking, why are you asking? The Eibishter knows what he's doing. So why are you asking this question? Mitzad Sheni, the very fact that Moshe asks this question, well, Moshe Rabbeinu is Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu is Chochmah de Kedusha. So this question is being asked from a place of unbelievable holiness. So then why, isn't it fulfilled? I mean, what is not true, so to speak, about this question, ad kedei kach, that it seems that the answer is no. Right? Either way you look at it, this whole conversation doesn't make sense. These two questions actually answer each other, so to speak. Since this is a request, and Hatzah is like, an idea, an Eitzah is advice. Shel Moshe Rabbeinu. And not only is this an idea that's rummaging around in Moshe Rabbeinu's head, this pasuk is in the Torah. Right? So this pasuk is emes lamita. Right? V'huva, but there is emes. Right? And it's brought in the true Torah, but Torah nitzchis, in the eternal Torah. This actually was fulfilled. But I understand. What do you mean it was fulfilled? Moshe didn't take Am Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael, and someone else is going to ultimately redeem the Jewish people. No, not the Rabbah. Not true. Rabbi explains. The same shaliach that Moshe Rabbeinu sent to redeem the Jewish people from Mitzrayim, Moshe, he himself, the Eibishter, is sending to redeem the Jewish people in future. Kefisha Nemar b'Medrash, as the Medrash says, and this is something that's very, very common. Right? It's said this all over. The Rebbe talks about it constantly. Shemesha hu geil rishon begulas Mitzrayim hu geil achron begulas Hasidim. Mesha hu geil rishon geil achron. That idea in Chazal is a very, very common idea. Mesha is the first redeemer. Mesha is the last redeemer. He's somehow the last redeemer, and this is discussed in different places. He also comes from David. Not just Mesha. Mesha Shevet Levi. The Mashiach comes from Shevet Yehuda. He's from David HaMelech. So there the Rebbe explains the two different tchunos of Mashiach. He's the Melech and he's the Rav. He's the Melech, that's Yehuda, and he's the Rav, Moshe Rabbeinu. Mashiach has both of those tchunot. Okay, but the Rebbe just said something really quite astounding. When Moshe says Shalach na b'yad tishlach, he's not saying, why are you sending me, send someone else. He's saying, I want to be the someone else. I want the one you send here to be the one you're going to send there. Moshe Rabbeinu is asking to be Geil Achron also. And it's Miskayim, because Baruch accepts that. That's really astounding. This is the kavanah of Moshe. Even though he knows that the Kadosh Baruch Hu is going to send someone else, so to speak, to be Mashiach. Moshe is asking that someone else should just be me. Obviously not me who's standing here right now, but me in some other sense. And that's why we say Moshe hu ger rishon and ger lachron, and we'll talk about that in a second. How is that expressed? L'kasher es hager rishon, to connect the first Redeemer im ger lachron with the last Redeemer. Shagam agula rishonim in Mitzrayim tia kshurim biyad tishlach. Also, the first redemption should be connected with biyad tishlach, with the one who you will send is Mashiach. V'gam agulas achreina, and also that the last geula tia kshura will be connected in Moshe ger rishon. Let's finish the ois, and then we'll explain what the Rebbe just said. Something absolutely astounding here. Kloimer, afal pisha Moshe Mashiachim shnei anoshim shenim. And even though Moshe and Mashiach are two separate people, and now the Rebbe mentions what we just talked about before, Moshe Mishevet Levi Mashiach Mishevet Yehudim Beis David. Moshe is from Levi and Mashiach is from Yehuda. V'heim mahavim shnei inyanim nifradim. Therefore, they're two separate things. Heim miskashlim, they're connecting, misachlim, and united zeim zeh, as will be explained in Sichas. Whoa. So, the Rebbe just said an amazing thing. That whole idea of Geil Rishon, Geil Achron, which is common, it's everywhere, that comes from the fact that Moshe asked for it. So now there's an idea in Chassidus that hopefully we're very familiar with. The expression of Moshe in every generation. There's a Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation. Why is there a Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation? Okay, we can explain it in terms of Aveda, why Moshe is necessary, and there's lots of Chassidus that explains, why is it necessary that there should be a Moshe Rabbeinu, and why is it that Yidden, there's that claim that people make to this day, right? I don't understand. What do I need a Rebbe for? It's just me and a Kadosh Baruch Hu. I'll go straight to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. People talk about that all the time. Right? Okay, fine. So there's all sorts of answers, Al-Pi Panemius and Al-Pi just, basic common sense. No, there's an advantage that there's someone called Moshe Rabbeinu. And it might even be the advantage of just simply the Gezeres HaKosev. Look in the Pasuk, right? Look in the Torah. How did the Eibishter give the Torah? Moshe. How did the Eibishter split the sea? Moshe. How did the Eibishter do the plagues? Moshe. Why? That's the way the Eibishter likes to do things. Okay, fine. So now, there are people who certainly accept that, but then they'll say, okay, that was Moshe, that was it. And then there was Moshe. Now I don't need a Moshe. There's me. I got the Torah. And once Moshe gives us the Torah, so then I'm an independent agent. There's just me and a Kadosh Baruch Hu and my Torah, and I don't need anybody in between. Obviously, I do need someone to help me learn it and to give me advice. Of course, I'll have teachers and I'll have rabbis and I'll have someone who's a mentor, etc. But I'm Moshe Rabbeinu. The idea of there being a Moshe, that's not necessary. There's such people in the world who say that. Okay, fine. Well, there happens to be a Zayar, and the Zayar says that there's an Ispashtus of Moshe in every single generation. Okay, now, again, why? So we can explain why based on how Chassidus understands the role of a Rebbe and how he's an intermediary that connects as opposed to separates. Fine. But we also have to understand, where did that come from? Shlach na b'yad tishlach. Moshe Rabbeinu asked that there should be a Ispashtus of Moshe in every generation. That's what the Rebbe is saying right now. The very fact that Moshe is the Goyal Acharon, what does that mean? That means there's the Ispashtus of Moshe Rabbeinu in every generation. Because when does the Goyal Acharon come? Who knows? Right? Every generation is a generation that theoretically Mashiach could come in. Okay, so what must there be in that generation? A Moshe Rabbeinu of that generation in order to be the Goyal Acharon. Again, there are other reasons why there might be a necessity there is a necessity for a Moshe Rabbeinu in any particular generation. In every generation, for every single Jew. Okay. But here, the Rebbe just said something that's absolutely astounding. Where did that all come from? Theoretically, if Moshe Rabbeinu had not said, Shlach na b'yad tishlach, what might have happened? So there is no Ispashtus of Moshe in every generation. There's big tzaddikim in every generation who a person should be connected to and learn from, and adarabba, that it could be very similar to the way we understand the whole connection of a chassid to a rebbe, and that you couldn't possibly serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu properly without that person helping you, etc. We could say everything we want to say, but that person's not Moshe Rabbeinu. It's whoever it is in that generation. No, it's Moshe Rabbeinu. Where'd that come from? Shlach na b'yad. That's what the Rebbe just said. Moshe Rabbeinu asked that he be the Gerlach, and the Rebbe said, okay. The Rebbe didn't say no. He said, okay. And so that answers both our questions. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't know that the Rebbe knows what's going on. Of course he knows what's going on. But Moshe Rabbeinu has a question. He has a request. And what's that request? Yes, I know that there's going to be someone else who's going to be Mashiach, and he's not going to be called Moshe ben Amram Halevi. I know that. But I want him to be Moshe ben Amram Halevi. I want him to be me. Not mitzad my Yeshus. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of that reality. And the Rebbe said, okay. And that's Shlach na b'yad tishla. And the Rebbe says the fact that it's coming from Moshe Rabbeinu means there must be some emes here. And not only is it coming from Moshe Rabbeinu, it's in the Torah. So it has to be emes. What's the emes? Takali. It was Miskayim. It's an amazing pshat in the story. So all of this, the Rebbe said, now this idea of the connection of Shaliach and Mashiach and Moshe, this can be explained by first understanding what is shlichus in the Torah? Shlichus. What is it? Hachel mi'ashlichus harishona. That will begin. We're going to learn from the first shlichus in the Torah. What's the first shlichus in the Torah? Parshas Chaye Sara. What happens in Parshas Chaye Sara? Eliezer goes to find a wife for Yitzchak. He's sent by Avraham Avinu with a particular task. That task is to go find a wife. And then we're going to analyze how he does what he's told to do. And we're going to learn what a shaliach is. It's unbelievable. Hachel. And really quite astounding, this whole story is told with great detail, and not only is it told with great detail, it's told twice with great detail. Right? Yeah? B'parsha Seinu, Hashlichus sheshalach Avram es Eliezer limsei v'lases shidduch avo Yitzchak b'nai. The shlichus that Avraham Avinu sent Eliezer to find and it's interesting, the Rebbe uses two words, to find and to make the shidduch for Yitzchak. V'oifen she'Eliezer bitzeas achar kach v'feil shlichusei b'shidduch Yitzchak, and how Eliezer did it. Now, Bechlal, first things first, the Rebbe is going to, now there's a certain chakira. We'll go through it relatively quickly. There's a certain chakira the Rebbe wants to know it's very important to understand the Indian shlichus. Is Eliezer a shadchan or is he a shaliach? What's the difference? So a shadchan makes the shidduch. A shaliach makes the kedushin. If I send you to go find a husband for my daughter, right, and I give you money, and I say, I want you to marry off my son to that girl. So then, okay, my son does this, right? Because if he's an adult, I can't do that for him, okay? So Beseda. So he sends you, when you go to that girl, you say, Hare at mikudeshes leruvein b'tabas zay. You're married to Reuven with this ring. They're now married. There's two Eidim, they're married. That's shlichus. Shadchan? What do you think about marrying Reuven? Great idea. Okay, come with me. Are they married? They're not married. Are they going to get married? Yeah, they're going to get married. But they're not married. Shlichus is that the shaliach makes the kedushin. That's called a shaliach. A shadchan is someone who makes the shidduch. Doesn't make the kedushin. They're not married. Okay, so who's Eliezer? Is he a shaliach or is he a shadchan? Is he just going to find a nice wife and bring her back and Yitzchak will marry, or is he the shaliach who somehow is making the, and the Rebbe will explain the difference between the two in great length, making the shidduch. And what's the difference between the two? Now we know what the difference is between the two la'alocha, in terms of are they married or not. Okay, but what's Eliezer doing? So it's rather obvious already. We're going to posit that Eliezer is a shaliach. Okay, but we're going to ask the question, wait a minute, why not, is he, maybe he's a shadchan? Let's see. V'yesh makom lachker. There's room to investigate. Begeder ubedin hashlicha shel Eliezer b'kiyum divrei Avram elav. In the whole definition of Eliezer within the context of fulfilling that which Avram asked him to do. And what's that? You see that all of these footnotes are all basically in Yonim and Niglo, in Shlichus and Shadchanis, etc. So we're not going to go into that. So if you thought it was a long packet, don't worry. This page is going to be pretty quick. We're not going to learn all these various footnotes. They're amazing. When you learn a Sicha, you should learn the footnotes. But we're not going to learn all of these footnotes. Right? Sheyesh lefarish ezeh b'kamei fanim. You could explain this in a number of ways. Umehem aleph Eliezer shaliach haya. He was a shaliach l'kedushin. K'mei shenemar b'teisvus, like Teisvus says, sheshluchei shel adam k'meisei. The shaliach of a person is like him. That means if Shimon goes to marry Dinah for Ruvain, so then Shimon is as if Shimon is Ruvain. And so when Shimon gives the money to Dinah, Dinah is married to Ruvain because it's as if Ruvain gave the money to Dinah. Right? Shluch Shalom Kameshe. Shluch of a person is like him. He's in his place. Kameshe Nemar B'teisvish, Shluch Shalom Kameshe. V'gam begeder hashaliach, also in the definition of a shaliach atzma yesh kama darges. Yidua Maisa Shaliach Hu Kemaisa Mishaleach. The deed of a shaliach is like the deed of the one who sent him. Yisedim Mizu Gam Koyach Asiya Shal Shaliach Hu Kemaisa the Mishaleach. Even the power of action of the shaliach is like the power of action of the Mishaleach. V'Yod Yeser, the highest level, Kol Kulei Shal Shaliach, the whole being of the shaliach Hu Kemaisa the Mishaleach. Ad Kemaisa the Mishaleach Mamish. So when we say Shluchei Shaladam Kemaisa, so that can be expressed in different ways. Each way deeper than the other. Okay. That's one way of understanding Eliezer. When the Rebbe and Bechlal talk about the idea of Shluchei Shaladam Kamesa relative to the Shlichus of a Yid to the Rebbe, or the Shlichus of all Yidden to the Eibishter, etc., the Shluchei Shaladam Kamesa, it's like in Mamish, the deepest level. The simplest, and not the simplest, but that middle level is the level that also is obvious. The Eibishter wants something done in Eilam Hazeh, so to speak. Okay, so who does it? We do it. So we're his hands. Another way of understanding Eliezer Begeder Shadchan. So really, Eliezer should have asked for a lot of money. Limsa Isha Yitzchak Shadchanim, like money. Limsa Isha Yitzchak, to find the wife. Now you notice he took out a verb. Before it was limsa velasos shidduch. Here it's just limsa, just to find the shidduch. The shadchan doesn't do the shidduch; they just find the shidduch. Limsa isha liyitzak loy k'shaliach l'kedushin, not like a shaliach l'kedushin. And so much of Maseches Kedushin is talking about shlichus. Half the Gemaras are talking about someone sending someone. What happens if that person gets lost in the middle of all sorts of amazing stories about things happening in the shlichus, right? It's also, of course, the interesting Reuven sends Shimon to go marry Dinah, and what might Shimon do when he gets there? Marry her for himself. Okay, what's that? Right? Oi, afilu shadchan lekodsha. There's also a reality of being a shadchan to actually make the kedushin, but not b'tor shaliach. Shafal pi shegam shadchan b'koiche lekadesh. A shadchan has the ability to be mekadesh. So you see the footnote to the Alter Rebbe. But he's not being shadchan in the place of the person he's sent. This is still not the same power kamei shaliach. Why? Because what's the meaning of a shaliach? Shu kamei say the mishaleach. He's like the one who sent him. Mashein kein v'negel l'shadchan relative to shadchan einem shadchan shaladam kamei say. Shadchan is a completely different person. Shadchan is a third party who's bringing two parties together. Now it might even be that the shadchan can do something called make the kedushin happen. Okay. Fine, but even that still is a third party making a kedushin between one and two happen. Whereas the shaliach is simply the expression of one who's bringing about a shidduch with two. Oh, you want to be politically correct? A shaliach of two who's bringing about who's making a shidduch with one. I don't want to get in trouble. Who's two and who's one? V'adarabba, au contraire. Shadchan hu befedish loy kamesa. The shadchan by definition is not like him. It's a third party. Elaka adam acher, another person, she'isa teva l'sheni, who's doing a favor for the first person. Kafi shirayim b'mina gailim, and that's the way the world works, right? Okay. Yesh svara loimer, there is a svara to say. Eliezer loyar kishliach shalavim shukamesi. He wasn't like a shaliach of Avram shukamesi. Ela kametzias nifredes. He was his own separate being. Shadchan. Kfi shemashma. This seems to be understood. Being in shidduch shel Yitzchak Kufa regarding the shidduch of Yitzchak himself. We'll go through this relatively quickly. Mizash Eliezer haya mechazer limtzai ilo. He was looking to find an excuse. Sheyemer la'Avram, that he could say to Avram lifneis elav, that he should turn to him lahasir bita, that he should marry Eliezer's daughter, because that's what Eliezer wanted. Eliezer really wanted Yitzchak to marry his daughter. So you could certainly say that Eliezer had an ulterior motive in all of this. So he's certainly not shluchei shaladim kamesa. He's not bottled Avram. Might be telling. He had his own desires in this whole thing. And he might have been looking for an excuse to say, okay, I couldn't find someone there. How about my daughter? Amar le Avram, what did Avram say to him? Bani Baruch, my son is blessed, vata adar, and you're cursed. Ve'ein adar medabek bebaruch. And a cursed one doesn't cling to a blessed one. Eliezer didn't leave. Ubefrat, shebesipur devarim, particularly in the whole story, mudgash, it's emphasized, ubarichus, at length. Eliezer himself had to work very, very hard to find the shidduch that was right for Yitzchak. Eliezer had tzarich lispal b'atzmei l'Hashem. He had to daven himself. Ulevara b'atzmei lasoy siman alzeh, and he had to work things out and make a sign for this. Right? He said if she does this and this, so that's the right one. If she feeds the camels, etc. V'oid b'efen nisi, and also in a miraculous way. Shechein Avram amar le'irach loy tikar ish livni mibnei sakdan. El artziv el melad b'teilach. Don't take my son, a wife from here. Go over there. That's all Avram said. Everything else was left up to Eliezer. So we see that Eliezer is an independent party in this whole thing. Seems to be a shadchan. For like Peter tesmiel of l'kadesh, Avram didn't say go get Rivka for my son. Mamela, therefore, consequently, yesh makom she's arvu b'zeh. Therefore, there's a lot of room for Eliezer to include in this whole job a lot of his own personal inyonim. Avalidach, on the other hand, Eliezer has zokin beisei ameshel b'chol asher lo. He was the one who was in charge of the whole house of Avram. Shemeshel b'teres rabbi. He was the one who ruled over the Torah of his master. In other words, he was the one who understood it best. Not only that, he's referred to in the Torah as Damascus Eliezer, like Damascus Eliezer. Okay, so what's the Mesek Eliezer? So Rashi says, Doile umashke. The Mesek is from the language Doile umashke. He draws and gives to drink. Mitaris Rabbi Lachedim, from the Torah of his Rav to others. Doile is what you do, water out of a well. That's the Mesek, Doile umashke. The Eved Avram, and he's Eved Avram. And what does Chazal say? Eved Melech Melech. We saw in previous mimer, Loisa Meshakela. V'gam b'kiyum sivov shel Avram, and also in his performance of the commands of Avram. What do we see? V'lakach the Ishel Livni v'Yitzchak kiyem Eliezer hakol. Eliezer fulfilled it all b'diuk k'divrei Avram, b'diuk, like the words of Avram. We said him, he said, furthermore, Avram hishbiya yakach. Avram made him take an oath on this. Sim yayad chotachas yarechi v'ashbiyacha, right? Made him take an oath, holding on to a davar shebegdusha, shemishum kach, because of this, v'oitam, and for other reasons, mistaber lem, it's reasonable to say, shaya shaliach. So what was he, a shadchan or a shaliach? Based on all this, you could say he was a shaliach, shaladim kamesa, l'kadesh yisvivka, the yisabah tesvis. You could say this, you could say that. Mitzad echad, Eliezer seems to be a free agent. Mitzad Sheni, he's very bottled Avram. So what is he? Is he a shadchan? That's the free agent, or is he a shaliach? It's the one who's completely bottled Avram. One more paragraph. V'yeshlem mishedavar zeh she'Eliezer shaliach muvan gam mimasher kosev. It says v'yikach eved Sara gemalim mi gemalei adenav. He took the eved 10 camels from the camels of his master. V'yelech v'chol tuv adana biyadeh. All the goodness of his master was in his hand. What does that mean? He had all the goodness of his master in his hand. How can that be? Oh, so the Mefarshim explain. Kafisha Mefarshim Mevarim, as they explain. And you see the footnote 37, the Ramban, the Svarna, the Chizkuni, major Mefarshim explain this in the following way. She'Eliezer hichsid berushusei kol tuv adenav. He had all of the goodness of his master in his hands. Vayoyochel laseis b'zeh k'yotzei. He could do whatever he wanted with it. Avinu gave it all to him. We're going to learn later what does that mean. The next paragraph, which maybe let's see. Where's the end of the ace? Not going to get there. I'm going to try to turn the page. Kol tuvadena vayochel laseis b'zeh k'yotzei v'lo nizkak l'nasias v'shus al-kach. He didn't have to ask Avinu every time, can I write a check? Can I write a check? Can I write a check? No. He was in charge. He had it all. Now, what does that mean he had it all? He's the one who's in charge of everything. Okay, so what does that mean in this case? So let's see. Even according to the Perish, the Rashi being shtar matana kosav litzak al kol asher. He wrote a shtar matana to Yitzchak on everything he had. Avram Avinu wrote a shtar that Eliezer had in his hand, that all of Avram Avinu's wealth now belonged to Yitzchak. So he's really walking along with everything. Now, on a certain level, that really it's not his, it's Yitzchak's. Okay, but it's in his hand. All right, but what then this shtar, why did he write this shtar? That people should want to they want to marry Yitzchak. I mean, look at what he's got here. He's got the whole shebang. Avram's a very wealthy man. Hari Avram Masa shtar matana l'Yeshusa she'Eliezer. Even according to the people who said he gave the shtar matana, and now shtar matana was to Yitzchak, but Eliezer has the shtar matana in his hand. He's holding the check. The check's for $15 million, and he's got it in his hand. You could rip it up. So Yotzi Mizeh, what comes out from this? Eliezer had everything. Eliezer was mamish on a certain level, at least in this external gashmistic level, like Avram. Avram gave all of Avram's wealth in the hands of Eliezer. Let's finish the ois. L'churei, echaya yochel Avram limser kol asher leila adam she'olav yochel liyeh sofek im yishtamish b'zeh kedeboy. Just simple shot. Avram's going to give everything he has to someone who he's not sure is going to use it properly? That can't be. Can't be. From this it's understood. Eliezer hayu moser legamre l'Avram. Eliezer was completely given over to Avram. B'yosei Avdei, he was his Eved. Mamish is Eved. The real thing, Eliezer. Adrabah. We're going to see that. We're going to learn what it means to be a shaliach from Eliezer. Everything about it. Lochin gam kasher shalchei lasos is a shidduch avur Yitzchak. Therefore, also when he sent him to make the shidduch for Yitzchak, hu haya, he was like a shadchan. He wasn't a shadchan. Shu metzias la'atzmei. Shadchan is an independent, free agent. Ela b'bechina shaliach. He's a shaliach. He's mamish one with Avram Avinu. Ad k'dei kach that Avram Avinu is willing to give him everything he's got. Eliezer is walking around in his hand with everything that belongs to Avram. Shekol, what does that mean? Shekol mitziyusei, his whole existence, mitziyus mishalech, is the mitziyus of the mishalech. Lochein Avram yochel lahashir b'shusei. Therefore, Avram was able to leave in his domain kol asher lo, everything that he has, bli shum safek, without any worry, without any doubt. Okay, so Eliezer is a shaliach. How do we know he's a shaliach? Because you see, he's completely bottled Avram Avinu. Because he's not bottled Avram Avinu, why in the world did Avram Avinu give him all of his money? Okay, fine. What do we see about Eliezer? When Eliezer describes himself, when they ask him, who are you? What does he say? Eved Avram Avinu. Doesn't have a name. I'm Avram Avinu's Eved. That's who I am. Completely bottled Avram. Okay, so we've decided, we'll go weiter on Sunday, we've decided that Eliezer is a shaliach. So what's the gather of shlichus? We're going to understand the gather of shlichus by first asking what the Rebbe says. You can see this in the first two lines. Habir b'zeh yuvan bagdama she'elu nosefes klatz kasha. We're going to ask what's called a klatz kasha. Just like, a klutz is a piece of wood. Klutz kasha is usually a question that we don't think is such a good question. Okay. A klutz kasha. Only a klutz would ask such a kasha. Okay, the Rebbe's going to ask a klutz kasha. That's what he said, right? Regarding this whole story. And then we'll understand what Eliezer did and how he did it and how that helps us understand what Shlichus is all about. Okay. Have an amazing Shabbos. You too. Where the dock is.